The Stage Door Show, celebrating the independent artist. With your host, Dave Hondell.
I've seen flatlands of Odessa and the hills of Tennessee, but nothing can compare quite like the way she looks to me. From the banks of Carolina on out to the West Coast, there's a whisper down in my soul, keeps bringing me back home. She's like Louisiana, tastes like...
Hi everybody, welcome to the Stage Door Show tonight. This is Dave Hondell. I am super excited tonight because I have my guy Ty Clark from down in Nashville, man. We've known each other for just over a year, doing some common things with like Austin Tolliver and work with Emmy. But I'm so glad to have him on tonight because we're going to talk about some new music of his own.
Yeah.
So Ty Clark, man, welcome to the show.
Man, thank you so much for having me, dude. We kind of talked about collabing on this whole thing, so happy to be here, brother.
Well, thank you for being here. And, Ty, besides being, we talk about being a creative director, because I know I've posted that on a lot of my promos with Emmy and with Austin. I know you've done a lot of work with them, but, a lot of people talk about having a producer, talk about, having a songwriter, which you do a lot of, but talk about being a creative director, because I think to me, that's kind of in my realm a little bit, but talk about being a creative director because I think it's really important, especially working with so many young artists in Nashville. Talk about what that means.
Yeah, man. So I think and I think I've heard Austin say this a couple of times as well. I think the first thing is really just putting together a really good team of people around you, people that really trust in your process and see that potential. And, obviously, we saw that in Austin and then working with Emmy as well. And just the creative director itself is being involved in pretty much the everyday process of just the artist itself, I think, as far as, bouncing new ideas off each other. If I have something like just being a songwriter really helps out in that creative process as well. If I have ideas that I feel like would be a good fit for Emmy or for Austin or anybody that I work with just in general or have worked with in the past, it's, you send them those ideas and then, we kind of set up the rights. And then I think one of my favorite parts of being in that role is being in the studio. I've been in the studio enough, and not had to play that role, but been able to kind of shadow almost in a way and take that back seat and just be able to watch and observe. And I think that was really important for me learning in general because I got to see how these other guys operate. And so the thing that my dad always used to tell me is just to kind of shadow, to watch, and then take a couple of tricks out of, from somebody else and put them into your bag of tricks, man, And so I think that really helped out whenever I did get into that role where it was having to make those decisions of, hey, does this sound good? Hey, does this not sound good? Hey, how can we do this different? And, obviously you've got a producer in there. I'm not the one that's turning dials and hitting record and, counting anybody in or anything like that. I'm sitting back and I'm listening and I'm watching of how things are going and making sure that we're hitting those notes or we're on key or we're on time or whatever it is. And just being sort of like that, I wouldn't call it a mentor by any means, but it just being that extra set of ears or that extra set of eyes that's there and letting them know, hey, we need to do this different, or hey, that was awesome, you killed that part. You know what I mean? So I just love the creative process as a whole. And like I said, from the very start, whenever that idea hits you, wherever that inspiration comes from, to being able to rap on the end of it and say, the song's done, we just got the masters back, and let's rock and roll, let's set it up, and we're going to release this because this is perfect. And I think I have a little bit of a perfectionist in me, and I think that probably plays in pretty well too, just because, man, I'm guilty of it. I've put out some songs before that I've just been like, or I've gotten songs back or whatever it is, and just kind of been like, okay, yeah, I mean, that's good, and I go back and to it now compared to what we've done and the experience that we've gotten, and I go, wow, I mean, yeah, I've really grown. I feel like I've grown from the first time I've started till now. So it's always a learning process, man. And my motto, I guess my mantra is there's always room for improvement, always. You can always get better, and, and you can always, kind of hone in your craft there. So that's one of the things I love about just being in the creative process and having that role as a creative director. So.
Well, that's great. And Ty, talking about being in the studio, this is something, I've been in many recording studios doing music videos and working with artists as well. And, I don't think you can really explain to somebody who's never really worked in a real studio. And I know that we have a lot of indie artists, but that, maybe there's some of them out there that haven't had that real life kind of studio experience, and there's really nothing like being in a studio. We talk about home recording, we talk about doing a lot of things on a budget. Obviously you have to do what you got to do, right? But
I think one of the greatest things I heard it called is the guerrilla recording. People like back in the day, or maybe it was like Vietnam or something, but they call it like the guerrilla warfare. The way it was just kind of, you just pop up and you just do it anywhere. You may be going in and recording in someone's closet, that's where their studio is, and they've got the pads and stuff. And we've done that. Like, that's where everybody starts at, man. I think that's what you kind of have to go through that, but then it makes it that much more sweet whenever you get to go into places like, Southlight Sound, or you get to go into places like Sound Emporium. Man, I think Sound Emporium was probably one of our favorites that we used to go into quite a bit. And our guy, Joe Trinikoski, that was over there, is just an absolute genius when it comes to audio engineering. And it's for any type of new artists that are coming in, man. It can be intimidating that going into the studios like that, and you walk in, and I mean, man, if you walk into Sound Emporium, there's just a whole wall, like just the whole hallway really, of just pictures of all these people who've recorded there. Anybody from, Johnny Cash, Willie Nelson, Keith Urban, Cole Swindell, like they recorded some of the Oh Brother Where Art Thou soundtrack there. It's all along the wall. And so, that can be a little intimidating. But, there has to be, you have to be mature enough, I guess, in a way, too. Whenever you walk into that studio, it's like, okay, it's time to get down to business. We want to have fun. We're in the business of having fun. But at some point, it's like, okay, headphones go on, light goes red. We're recording here, and let's get to work. So I think you get more comfortable the more and more you go in. That's with anything. You just get more experience with it, and you get more comfortable as you do this more often. So it's right off the bat, it's definitely intimidating, but I think once you get a few under your belt, then you'll be just fine.
Yeah, and being in the studio, you've obviously, done a lot of songwriting in the studio as well, in between, sessions, I'm assuming. But, you're a prolific songwriter, because I've heard a lot of your music that you've written and in collaboration with some of these artists. And, you have quite a process, and I really enjoy watching that process in some of the videos that I've seen. So talk about that process, about working, because you worked with veteran songwriter or singers, but you've also worked with some young singers just coming up. So what's the difference between the two? Because I think sometimes the younger ones have that kind of hunger in their belly because they want to learn, but you got the veterans also know a little more structure, I guess, with the song. So talk about the difference between working with somebody new and then a veteran.
Well, and I think one of the things is, like, it's with songwriting, it's either you got it or you don't. There's nothing wrong, one way or the other. My main thing to tell anybody is, hey, write what you want to write. Like that's my big thing. Like, don't, write it because you want to have a radio hit. If you stay true to yourself and you write the stuff that you want to write, then, man, like you can't go wrong with that. But going back to what you're saying with, like, maybe more of a novice writer to a more veteran writer, I think there's just people that you gel with, man. I think there's people that you just mesh with so well. Perfect example, and I'm gonna shout him out. His name's Dalton Grimes. He's another Louisiana boy. He lives up here in Nashville now. We've written a couple of songs on my last acoustic project, the song If This. I think it was the first or second one on the EP. And he's just, he is a young songwriter, like he is a novice songwriter, but the guy's ideas are just bar none. And it's so cool to see this because I've been songwriting for a while, And so I know the structure, and then I know as far as your rhyme scheme, your internal, external rhyme, you know, how you're needing to, everything's to match up and how everything's going to flow and your syllables and everything, where, you know, Dalton comes in with these ideas and it's like, wow, let's do that. And so, man, we wrote one today that was just an absolute, probably one of my favorite songs I've ever written in my entire life. I will say that right now on this station, this is probably one of my favorite songs I've ever written. It's called Highway in the Sky, and it was me and Cole Bradford and Dalton Grimes wrote this song. And, man, it's just sometimes those things just hit you, just get the inspiration. But Cole is a guy that I literally just met today, and he comes in, sits down, super, super cool guy. He's got a heck of a voice, man. And we sit down. We were actually pondering a different song. And before Cole had gotten there, Dalton showed up a little bit early, and we threw that idea out there. He's like, okay, yeah, that's cool. And then we played what little bit we had written of Highway in the Sky. He goes, wow, let's write that one. Let's finish up on that one. So we did, man. It just came out to be so amazing. But like I said, Cole has been writing for a while. Dalton's been writing for a year, probably a year plus, probably at least. But, you know, just the ideas that he brings to the table, and then you mesh that with someone, one, you get along with and you're friends with, and two, you mesh that with someone who knows the structure and knows, you know, how to make everything flow well, which I take a lot of pride in. I try to do that, and maybe I overanalyze things sometimes. But I don't know that I can answer confidently how big of a difference there is with writing a novice. So like whether you have to teach them something or with writing a veteran and they have to teach you something. I think it's just people that you mesh well with, quite frankly. And, you know, it's really easy to tell right off the bat, because if you go in and you're just struggling on something, or the other writer, you know, is just not feeling what you're saying, or vice versa, whatever it is, you know, then it just, some people, you can still be friends with them. And there's some people that I just don't write well with, and they're veteran writers or they're novice writers, whatever it is. Then it's who you mesh with. And I think that's my biggest takeaway from writing with a lot of different people and being in those rooms with people like the Cole Bradfords and the Dalton Grimes, where one's been writing for probably a long time, the other's probably been writing for a year or two. It's just, you know, who you mesh well with, really, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I think definitely a chemistry is really important, like any relationship, no matter what it is. I think, you know, in order to put out a good product, you have to have good chemistry. And, you know, speaking of songwriting and, you know, you have your own music. Like, you know, I want to talk about a couple songs here, because you have a new one coming out next month, which we'll cover in a second. But I want to start with your song Right Road Now, because I heard the song. I love the song. And I know you have there's popularity with that song as well. So talk about how that song came about. How did you start writing that song, and what's it about?
Man, to get on kind of I guess there was a deeper meaning to it. And it kind of it went into a different direction, I think, more than anything else. But the original idea for the hook, you know, I had a little niece that was at St. Jude's for, you know, about 9 months, and then you know, we had gotten a couple of calls saying, you know, like, hey, you know, she's on the up and up, and so I'm like going, you know, she's on the right road now, and that was what I thought about that. Well, then it was just more of the idea, just the hook, maybe not just telling the story per se, but, you know, just that saying in general really had just kind of stuck with me for quite some time. And I just take little different parts of different songs and stuff. And I remember she's free as a feather on a soft, slow breeze.
She's free as a feather on a soft, slow breeze. She ditched the town with just her car and her keys. She looked back and she said, that ain't the life I want to lead. She's on the right road now, free of sin and sense of rules. Putting miles behind her, no more tears from my baby blues. She's on the right road now, spread her wings and she flew. There's no more looking back for her, she got the past in her rear view. And everybody called her crazy, but they ain't seen her lately. Oh, she led without a doubt that she is on the right road now. girl met a boy in a no-name town. He was trouble from the start. Her mind was saying no, but it was drowned out by the pounding of her beating heart. Between the drinking and the women that he gave attention and the words that cut too deep, she looked back and she said, that ain't the life I wanna lead. She's on the right road now, free of sin and sets of rules, putting miles behind her, no more tears from my baby blues. She's on the right road now, spread her wings and she flew. There's no more looking back for her, she got the past in her rear view.
And that was where I used to play some shows back home. One of my favorite bartenders there, she had this gigantic, just beautifully done feather that was on like her forearm. And I was just like, oh man, she's free as a feather on a soft, slow breeze. She did some talent, just her car keys. I'm going, man, okay, so just, it's weird how you get inspiration from little things like that, and they can have a completely different meaning, but you tie them together and you make them all into one story. And, those kind of things just really start to fall onto paper. And Right Road Now is one of those. Sometimes some of them you got to grind it out, for them, but Right Road Now was one of those that got written probably pretty quickly. And it was probably, I don't know, man, I'd maybe give 2 hours on that song that I spent on it, and it was just really stuck with me. And that was the first one I cut. Whenever I got to Nashville, I was kind of getting to know some people, I think. And so I think it was year 2 or year 3 whenever I was in, and was writing a lot. And finally I was just like, okay, this is still the one. I've written a lot of good songs with a lot of great people, but for me, and it to be my first cut since whenever I came to Nashville, I wanted it to be more of me, versus, hey, there was 2 other guys on this, and, I love co-writing, don't get me wrong, but I wanted it to be me, and to put that out there like that way I could say it was kind of like a, I don't know, the breakout of, what I was trying to do. So, because it was there for a while, it was just kind of me up here, man, and I pretty much just uprooted and left, and it was weird. I was working a job and stuff back home in Louisiana, and got a call that an opportunity opened up for me up here, and it's a cool story for me to tell. It's a great testimony, I guess, in the sense there that I literally just dropped everything and I just headed out, and it's paying off. It's really paying off. I've met a lot of great people up here, so I'm super excited. But yeah, Right Road Now was the first one that came out, and I still play that one in the car sometimes because it's one of those, it's a freedom song, man, because like you're going through. This girl is going through these different trials and tribulations, I guess, throughout the verses, and she's hitting these speed bumps in life, if you will, but she's learning from them, and she's these experiences she's learning from as well, and so she's saying, you know what, I'm not sticking around here. This is toxic. I'm out, and so she moves on to the next, and that's when she's saying she's on the right road now. Second verse, sort of the same story there. She leaves, and the bridge kind of comes to a happy place at the end of it, where she finds her peace, and wherever that may be for anybody, but for her in this sense, it was in a sunflower field listening to the radio. So.
Wow. Yeah, no, that's great. It's a great song. I really enjoy that song. And talking about songwriting again, I want to get back to this a little bit, but some people have a different process when they write music, and I mean, maybe there's no science to it the way it's done, but some people maybe write poetry or something on paper first, and then the melody comes afterwards, or some people might pick on the guitar, sit at the piano, and a nice melody comes, and then they put the words to it. Do you have a certain process when you write music? Do you do one first and then the other, or does it just kind of come to you?
I literally I stay as open-minded as possible. I don't ever try to put myself in a box like that where I say, hey, I have to do this first, because I feel like that taps into, or it kind of closes off the creativity. And I'll tell a cool story about this, where whenever I first got up here, maybe it was a year in or so, I was doing some, I'm pretty much self-taught guitar, okay? Whenever I got to Nashville, I was saying, okay, there's more to the guitar than just what I know. and I was, humble enough to realize that, I feel. So I went and I reached out to a guy named Shane Lamb, and he's with Green Hills Guitar Studio. And the guy is he has a different way of doing things, man, and he is so awesome. I always tell people that's the cheapest therapy I ever paid for. I went and paid like $40 a week, $50 a week or something like that. But it was 30-minute sessions, and we would sit down, and there'd be some days we wouldn't pick up the guitar at all. And there'd be other days that we would sit there and just hash it out 30 minutes straight. I'd go home and I'd play some more. But he always told me with the songwriting, he said, look, think of songwriting as, being two sides of your brain. You have your creative side, and this other side is this constructive or this need for completion side. He said, don't tap into that need for completion side until after you let that creative side go. You just sit down and don't close yourself off. Don't put yourself in a box where you have to, you're overanalyzing the first line of the song, and you've only got one line of a song. Don't do that. Just write it down. Whatever your avenue is, whichever way you want to take. Sometimes I'll have a whole song with just lyrics, and then I'll come back and we'll put the melody to it. I already know what I want it to sound like in my head, I feel like, whenever I'm writing it down, and we'll put the melody to it like that. Other times I'm like, man, this is a really cool little melody here. This chord progression is really awesome. So maybe we can write something to that. And then whether it's my own ideas coming up, where I'll call a buddy in and say, hey, do you want to write? I've got a really cool melody with this, or whatever it is. It may just be one line. You may just have the hook to the song, and you say, dang, that was really awesome. Perfect example with the song, like I mentioned earlier, that we wrote today. Dalton had sent this to me a couple of days ago. It might have been last week or whenever it was. And he goes, hey, man, I always wanted to write this song called Highway in the Sky. And he sent me like 2 lines to this song. And it was so weird because it was just this inspiration that you get, I guess. And you just grab it. And whenever that inspiration hits, I advise anybody and everybody to sit down. And if you're able to write it, write it. Because you may lose it, if you wait till, the next day or something like that. And so I literally sat down in my living room and I started writing some stuff for this song. And I kind of had this melody in my head. I got some chords together and singing these few lines that he had sent me just over and over and over again. And then the next line came and the next line came. And so whenever they showed up today, I had an entire pretty much first verse written, and then the first part of the chorus. Now, we went back and we tweaked some stuff and make things flow better and stuff, but that's going back to letting that creative side just fall on the paper, and then going back and that need for completion or that constructive side come in and, make sure you've got the correct amount of syllables in each line, and you've got your rhymes, your whatever your rhyme scheme is, your A B, or whether it be A B B A or whatever it is, and I advise everyone to do some research as far as on rhyme scheme, structure, everything like that too. But that's what helps me. Everybody's different, man. But that's what helps me is knowing those things and being knowledgeable of poetry, because songwriting is just a cool way of being a poet. That's what it's kind of funny in a way there, I guess, but that's what I've told a lot of people, and they're like, yeah, I guess you're right. So it's just the songwriting in general. I can't say that I have one way just of doing things. I try to leave it open all the time.
Yeah, and then She's Like Louisiana, which is your new soon to be released track, and I we talked about you being from Louisiana, Shreveport, Louisiana, and moving to Nashville, but talk about that song She's Like Louisiana, and does that have anything to do with back home?
Oh man, yeah, absolutely. So February 26th is when we're going to release that one. Super excited about it. For this, I guess, for quite some time now, since Dave, since you and I have known each other, I've been doing a lot of writing, been more of on the creative, directing side, creative process, but not so much putting out my own stuff because, we were, trying to get these other people to a certain level or help get those people to a certain level. And, which I feel like, we've been successful, as a team, everybody getting there. So that's, kudos to those guys for sure. But, I think it was probably right around, whenever COVID hit, man, to be honest with you, maybe March or April or so. And I was sitting in my apartment and just kind of had this little G, C, F, kind of thing going on with the cool little strum pattern there, and it kind of just started coming out on paper. And those songs that you've lived or you've experienced and that you've been there, those are the easiest ones to write, man. And She's Like Louisiana. There's some references to, she tastes like Baton Rouge. You're not going to get any better food, than in Louisiana. Baton Rouge, New Orleans for sure. But is just the whole idea of the song has been lived. And there's one part in it, I think second verse, it says, love as long as I-49, Shreveport to the Bayou.
I've been coming to my senses when I take a look at the view. Love as long as I-49, Shreveport to the Bayou. My head starts spinning like a hurricane when the voice of an angel calls my name. This burning flame inside my soul keeps bringing me back home. She's like Louisiana, tastes like Baton Rouge, Jackson Square on a summer night with a touch of Delta blues, where the floor red makes her split and it feeds the mouth of the Mississippi. She's hard to love, but I come to understand her. She's like Louisiana, Louisiana, Louisiana. She's like Louisiana, Louisiana, Louisiana. Like muscatine, a wine so sweet, beauty like Spanish balls in a tree, with the sun going down in the background. Like Louisiana, tastes like Baton Rouge, Jackson Square on a summer night with a touch of Delta blues.
So 49 or I-49 is a big highway that pretty much stretches through the entire part of Louisiana, going north and south there. And I think it starts up there, maybe a little geographically incorrect here, but it starts up, I'm going to say, around Texarkana area and make it a little bit further north. But it stretches literally all the way through Shreveport on down further south and down into southern Louisiana. And just felt like that was a good reference to put in, good metaphor there, I guess, saying love as long as I-49, Shreveport to the Bayou. Talking about, how big is the love that you've got for this person. And it's open to interpretation. She's like Louisiana. You think you're talking about a girl or the actual state of Louisiana. So it's something that I'm super excited about. My buddy Jake Garner produced the entire thing. I remember I went to him and with the work tape, and we were at their house one night, and can't remember exactly when it was, but it was a couple of months ago. And I went to him, I was like, hey, would you help me with this song? And he said, man, I would love to. So Jake is playing guitar on it. He's the one, when you hear that awesome guitar solo at the end of it, that's Jake. And a guy named Brian Toole is on drums. He's drummer for Matt Still. Jake actually plays some lead for Riley Green as of right now. And then we had our other buddy, Bud Davis, come in and play bass. And from there, we just it all came together. My roommate, Nate Justice, which he's part of a band here in Nashville too, Southern Justice, and Nate and Taylor Bainham. Nate came in and did the background vocals, and I felt important, man, because usually I'm watching this from the other side of it going, all right, this guy needs to do this guy needs to do this, and then I'm almost the one that's taking the back seat in that sense, and Jake's kind of taking the reins here going, we've got this guy, we've got this guy, we've got this guy. It's time for you to come in and do vocals now, Ty. And I'm like, all right, buddy, let's rock and roll. So we went into Jake's place, and we cut the vocals, and he added a whole bunch of more new cool stuff onto it, man. And I got it back, and I was just absolutely beside myself. I told him, I said, man, this song is very important to me, obviously, because I want it to be great, because my people from back home in Louisiana are going to be hearing this. And I told him, I said, dude, you nailed it. There's nothing. It couldn't be better, in my opinion. So hopefully everybody feels the same way that I do about it.
Yeah, definitely. We can't wait for that to come out, Ty. The one thing I want to talk to you about, because I know you've been in the business a long time, and I talk about this. I try to talk about it often on my shows, and I haven't for a while, and I don't like that I haven't brought this up recently, but I want to talk to you about building relationships and treating people, with respect in the business, and the fact that this music community is small. There's a small circle of us, even though, obviously music's worldwide, but, I think it all kind of, there's a real small circle, and talk about treating people the right way, and talk about the importance of that as an indie artist to, treat everybody the way they should be treated in this business, because it could come around, right?
Yeah. Oh man, 100%. You realize how, small Nashville actually is whenever you do get into a music circle like that. Like we'll go to writers rounds on any given day of the week, man. And where used to, I'd go in there and I would kind of be like, I don't know any of these people here. Now we go in, and I've been fortunate enough to meet a lot of great people. And man, I think it's being humble and not, kind of, for lack of a better term, being too big for your britches, I guess, in a way. That's a real Southern term for you there. But, you run across some people that, maybe there's an introduction that's being made, and they say, hey, this is my buddy Ty, or not me in particular, but hey, I've seen it happen. Hey, this is so-and-so. Hey man, what's up? And they don't have any care or whatever. And those first impressions last forever, man, and you never know who that person is. That person could be, just some Joe Schmo off the street, or that could be some big record label executive, man. You gotta be nice to everybody. You just have to strive to be a good human. I think that's one of the things that I wake up every day and I just say, man, you know what? Maybe there's some things that aggravate you or frustrate you, whatever it is, but I think it's just trying your best to be a good human. And we're not in the business of burning bridges, man. If somebody is, acts a certain way to you, or they treat you a certain way, you don't really ever forget those. At the same time, you just kind of say, in my mind, I go, maybe that person's going through something today, whatever it is. But yeah, man, I think it's just trying to just being genuine. Honesty is a big thing. I've been in situations where there's been some questionable things done, but for the most part, I've been pretty fortunate enough to work with some pretty awesome people, and some good, genuine humans, Jackie being one of them. Like, I can't say enough good things about that lady, man. She's just, she's 100% has, hung the moon in my book. So she's pretty awesome, and we still talk on a regular basis. I actually probably need to call her here soon. I haven't talked to her in a couple of days, but, we've still got some things going on with Emmy that we're working on, and some exciting new things. And, hopefully she's going to be having a song come out soon, and we're excited about that. I just heard some of the final mix on it the other day, and I'm like, man, this is going to be huge. So to try to circle back, I guess, to go the long way around the barn like I just did there, is just, man, I think it's treating people with respect, and not thinking that you're more important than anybody else, because in the grand gist of things, man, no one really is. Yeah,
and I completely agree. And then just even talking about Jackie, and for our listeners, Dr. Jacqueline Yvette, Public Relations, it's, Ty's been working with her for a long time. And I for the last year or so, I've been able to, and fortunate enough to get to know Jackie and Ty and Austin and Emmy and all the everybody in your circle, Ty. And I can't say enough about your entire circle down there, and just like I said, I'm blessed and fortunate to have been able to get to know you guys and to work with you. So, and also talking about Nashville, this is something that it just kind of amazed me, because I was actually watching TV the other day, and almost every station I popped on was coming from Nashville, or some reality show was being filmed in Nashville. The Chrisleys are being filmed there, and I know some other reality shows, and all these musicians are moving down there, and TV stars, and it seems like Nashville's really got some kind of renaissance is taking place, where everybody's moving there, and so as I guess my question is, as a musician and in a music city already, with everybody kind of, moving there, is that a good thing? Or is that something where if you're in that small music community, you're kind of looking at it like, okay, three's a crowd type of thing, or, or is it,
I'll tell you,
I mean, you know what I mean? Does that come into play a little bit with what, Nashville's been experiencing?
I'll tell you that I'm kind of torn in that sense. Okay. So, as another thing that I do, that I'm fully, invested in as well, as I'm also in real estate in Nashville. And so, I'm actually a licensed realtor here. And so the more people that are moving in, that's good odds for me. But whenever you're talking about more of a music side, or people just coming in and maybe, getting crowded and stuff in that sense, that's where, it's a blessing and a curse, because there's nothing worse, man, than, the woo girls coming in and hopping on the pedal taverns in downtown Nashville, and you're trying to get somewhere, and they're just going 3-4 miles per hour down the middle of, the street there, and you're just like, oh my gosh. Yeah. So, I think that, I'm excited about whoever wants to move here, because of the fact that that's, like I said, more, potential to meet new people, one, to write with new people. That's one of the great things about Nashville is, everybody's a transplant. I've met very few handfuls of people that are actually born and raised Nashville, or even surrounding counties for that matter. But what I love, I think, about this city so much is there's just a plethora of amazing songwriters. And I don't get envious of those types of things, man. I thoroughly enjoy going to these writers' rounds and hearing these songs and going, golly, man, I wish I would have thought of that. And I don't know if anyone's ever, thought of, any of my songs that way, but I know that I've listened to plenty of them where I go, man, this is absolutely awesome. There was one we heard the other day that I sent to a couple of my buddies, and when we were privileged enough to actually hear it out, and I think this is going to be our next single, but a girl named Casey Tyndall writes this song called Middleman, and the whole basis of the song is talking about kind of coming from a broken home, and then you're seeing dad one week and mom the next week or whatever, and making that exchange there, but she was the middleman. And I go, my God, I wish I would have thought of that song, because it's just absolutely breathtaking. But that's just a small or like a small example, I guess, of the amazing amount of songwriters that are in this city. And so I'm excited about it. We've got all kinds of new things coming in. We just got the Amazon distribution center. We've just got a few new things downtown. I don't go down there near as much as I used to. But you take a drive down there, and even just in the last 5 years that I've been here, it looks like a whole new place, man. It is absolutely nuts. But it's a blessing and a curse. I think that's the best thing that I can say about it is we invite anybody that wants to come to Nashville and try to make a name for themselves, because we all started there at some point. And I'm not some big shot by any means, but I've been here for, like I said, going on 6 years now, and I had to start somewhere just like everybody does. So I invite anybody that wants to come in and write songs, cut their teeth, just like how everybody kind of starts, man. So it's pretty awesome. It's the It City for sure.
And I had to ask you this question, and I know this is a tough subject, but recently, obviously, the bombing that happened right downtown, and obviously that was right in the middle of a lot of the businesses there, and that was a tough thing just to see on even TV. I couldn't even imagine being there like yourself and all the others that we are friends down there. But how did that affect some of those local? I mean, I'm assuming that some of those bars and some of those areas that were affected are music venues. So how did that affect everything down there? And is it hopeful that they're going to be back soon, or obviously rebuilding?
Yeah, man. So to how I found out, I was actually back home in Louisiana doing Christmas with my family and stuff. And Jackie is actually the first one to text me, and she's like, hey, bro, are you good? Are everything okay? And I'm like, yeah, Jack, what are you talking about? And she sends me the link, and I'm like, whoa. And so I basically run inside and I like tell my family, and then we turn on the news and stuff and start watching it. And, you know, as the story develops and stuff, man, you start going, wow, this is crazy, because that guy lived in Antioch. I live in Antioch. It's just the south. It's like a kind of a suburb of Nashville on the south and on the south side here. And I've got, you know, a house here with a couple of roommates. And whenever I saw that, I was like, I live in Antioch too. It's kind of crazy, man. Just, you know, it hit really, really close to home whenever I heard that. But just how the whole story unfolded, man, and you see this, like you wonder how somebody can have that type of hate in their heart, like they're just so mad about something that they just want to go blow up a whole block. And it's like, dude, this is nuts, man, because people's livelihoods are taken away from them. People lived on those streets. A lot of those buildings are like dual purpose, you know, like they've got living quarters there, the lofts and stuff like that are up there, and then they've got, you know, on that whole side, I'm pretty sure there's like B.B. King's bars down there, George Jones bars down there, Coyote Ugly. You know, there's quite a few of them that are on that whole block that just absolutely got just wiped out. And yeah, I mean, of course, I mean, I hope for their sake that they're rebuilding. I know that on top of, you know, COVID and stuff too, you know, COVID really put a big damper on everybody, especially the music industry, man. It's really, really hurt the music industry. But to have that happen on top of that is just, you know, absolutely nuts, dude. So, yeah, it was just wild, man. That was my first thing when I thought about that. I was like, man, what was this guy so mad about? Well, I don't understand. There's a lot of questions that came up, obviously, but first off, really is, you know, I hope everybody's okay. We know there wasn't any, you know, serious injuries or anything, and then you go to kind of diving a little bit deeper and analyzing some more things with it, and you go, I mean, I just don't understand it, man. Yeah. But it's wild. It really hurt a lot of people. Crazy. Yeah.
You know, and the last thing I want to cover here, and I talk to everybody about this, and I'm always interested to hear everybody's answer. But, you know, as an artist, as a songwriter, even as a creative director, I mean, what do you want your legacy to be when either you retire or several years down the road? You know, what do you want the people that know you and your fans to walk away with when they hear your name?
Man, I think that I take that question and I go, what I would love for everybody to know Ty Clark as is a good songwriter. You know, and that's really a big thing for me, is because I find the greatest accomplishment in the world of, you know, whenever I sit down, whether it's myself or other people, and we write just an absolutely awesome song, and I go, this is why I'm doing this. And it was a long time ago, before I even moved up to Nashville or anything. I had been telling my dad, saying, hey man, you know, like, I need to find a good studio. I need to, you know, go talk to someone about this. And I guess more just give me some reassurance, in a sense, there outside of my immediate family. And my dad said, okay, son, you know, let's go talk to this guy. You know, he was good friends with your grandfather, and the guy named Bud Christian. And so Mr. Bud, we went to go see him, and this guy has been doing it for 50 years, like a long time. He is a seasoned vet. Got, you know, just file cabinets of songs that he's written. But he used to play, you know, Louisiana Hayride back in the day. And so we went to Mr. Bud, and he said, you know, he asked the same question. He said, well, what do you want to do with this? And I said, you know, at the time I was going, I want to be under this, you know, stage lights in front of, you know, 20,000, 30,000 people in the crowd and everything. And he said, so let me tell you a little bit something about that. He said, that's all good. He said, I hope you do that. He said, but the average, like, life of an entertainer, like as far as their career span, he said, on average is, you know, probably 6 years-ish. I think he said 5 to 6. And, you know, some burn out earlier than that, but then you've got the other greats and stuff. Obviously, they're doing it for 20 years. But he said, you know, your averages are going to be anywhere from that, you know, 5 to 6 year range there. And he said, you know, and then, you know, you're kind of done from there. You're still obviously writing and stuff. He said, but son, you can be a songwriter forever. From the time that you can pick up a pen and you can form a sentence, you know, till the time that you're on your deathbed and you can't hold a pen anymore, you can be a songwriter. And whether that comes in the form of poetry or whether it comes in the form of actually writing those songs and producing them and cutting them, and or somebody else doing it or whatever. But I think that has been one of my biggest pieces of advice is, you can be a songwriter forever. And I think that is one of the things why I was so drawn to that. And just the idea of putting together just a whole, compilation of words and sounds and music and everything together, and making it come all together and hearing that final product is something that you can't find anywhere else. And so I think that's one of my biggest things is just the songwriting side of it. I take it very seriously, and I think that is what I would enjoy my legacy to be, as people see me somewhere, or they, if they hear my name or something like that, they say, "Hey, I heard that guy's a hell of a songwriter." So I think that pretty much sums it up there for that one.
It's very well said, very well said. And, She's Like Louisiana, guys, coming out February 26th. Ty Clark, singer-songwriter, prolific songwriter, creative director, and can't thank you enough for being on the show. Let's tell everybody where they can find you on social media, Ty.
Yeah, man. So it's Ty Clark Music on Instagram, Facebook. Don't get on Twitter much. Maybe I should start that up a little bit better, but I just don't get on there. So mainly, and they do Instagram, Facebook. You can find me on Spotify. It's just Ty Clark. It's TYCLARK. I've got a couple of songs on there now. The acoustic project that came out a little while ago, and February 26th, She's Like Louisiana is going to be dropping. So I think the pre-save link is going to be available February 1st. So you guys will be able to get on and save that and get ready for the hit to drop.
Well, we can't thank you enough. Ty, man, thank you for spending time with me tonight, and I'm sure we'll be talking to you soon. Thanks, brother.
Thanks so much, Dave. Appreciate you, buddy.
She's on the right road now, free of sin and sets of rules. Putting miles behind her, no more tears from my baby blues. She's on the right road now, spread her wings and she flew. There's no more looking back for her, she got the past in her rear view. And everybody called her crazy, but they ain't seen her lately. Oh, she led without a doubt that she is on the right